There's a lot you can do in England's capital. See a big clock, see this guy's house, or even join a riot! On the 29th of July, a mass stabbing occurred in Southport which killed 3 children and injured 10 others. The far right immediately blamed immigrants and Muslims despite the fact that the attacker was born in Britain and has lived here his entire life. Anti-immigration protests and riots spread across England and Northern Ireland as people were furious with the amount of British people who are living in Britain. Supposedly all of the rioting has been because of the Southport attack, but well, obviously it hasn't, because the rioters are complaining about immigrants and Muslims. The attacker wasn't an immigrant and he wasn't a Muslim, so that doesn't really work, does it? So if the riots aren't about Southport, then I guess they're just about immigration in general. This country voted Brexit and immigration is still far too high. Northern Ireland did not vote for Brexit. Wales did vote for Brexit, but there isn't any rioting happening there. So it's kind of funny that all this is happening then in England and Northern Ireland, the two most pro-British imperialist nations within the UK. It's almost like this is actually about English and white nationalism. Because it is like that. So today is Wednesday and there's supposed to be a big series of riots happening. Quite a few of them in London, which is where I live at the moment. It's right through there. There she be. Now I've only just moved to this city and I'm not really thrilled with the idea that I'm being introduced to it by a bunch of fascists outside my window. So I think I'm going to head out there and see what happens. There were several riots planned throughout London that night, and we were going to the northernmost one in Finchley. Unfortunately, once we got there, we couldn't actually find any fascists. Instead, there was a hate mob talking about tolerance and community spirit. The monsters. Right, get ready for some terrible audio quality because it was really loud there, and I've only got this wee little baby mic, so prepare your ears. So I'm here with this guy who we're going to call Nigel Farage. Nigel, what is your stance on the current situation?
The complete opposite and antithesis to Nigel Farage. I think we're sitting here on a day that is the 40th anniversary of the murder of Atlab Ali, a Pakistani textile worker that was murdered by 3 young white men in Brick Lane. And the reflection, what this says about our society, what this says about the space that we moved in, that our media, that the landscape of politicians, the lies and manipulation of Palestine, pro-Palestine and anti-genocide marches being named as hate marches, while we have the media landscape today is discussing whether or not to call the fascists that are publicly calling to set buildings alight, publicly calling to set refugee and immigrant support infrastructure, that are publicly calling to set alight communities of brown and black people. I think it's a complete and utter disgrace. Yeah.
That there from Nigel Farage. Okay, so we're here with
Luca.
Luca.
Yeah, Luca.
Right. So what's your favourite colour?
Oh, red.
What's your favourite animal?
Dog.
What's the best thing to do in London?
Probably get food.
You're going to beat up any Nazis tonight?
Depends. Depends on the situation.
And that is the situation. There is a high police presence in the area, and I wonder what some of the pigs had to say about all this. I'm here with PC Overton. What's your favourite colour?
I would probably go with beige.
Beige?
It's very, very 1980s.
Thanks.
Stop deportation! No borders! No nation! Stop deportation!
Alright, so I'm here with Alan, as you just saw. Alan, how do you come up with all those amazing lines?
Well, unfortunately, we've been saying them for years.
Yes.
So, we've got to get to a point where we don't need to say them anymore, haven't we?
It's a bit sad, comment on our country that we still have to say these lines, isn't it?
Yeah, but I tell you what, it's worth it every time because the alternative just doesn't bear thinking about.
Not as many fascists as I was expecting, actually. There's a lot. There really are more of us than them.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, and this is why we call the protest, and it's really important because if you remember in Southport, the one woman with the sign saying "racist not welcome," and okay, she was white, so she felt that she could do that. But imagine if there would have been hundreds of people with her. You know, I don't know if you'd have had those scenes. And the fact is, where we get mobilisations, where there is more of us than there are fascists, there isn't any problems, or the problems are much reduced. And I think that's a boost in confidence for everybody who just appreciates that they live and like living in a multicultural society.
There you go. Eventually, some of the fascists actually bothered to turn up, and one of them even had a bit of a scuffle with the police. But then, that was kind of it. Then we went to this place. It was shut. So is this Tesco's, so is this Cafe Nero, so is this Creams, which is a terrible name for the store. So when we made this video, we were looking to film some stuff kicking off, you know, a bit of rioting, bit of vandalism, but annoyingly there aren't many fascists here. So far the far right Finchley protest is basically 100% infiltrated by woke lefty soy boy cucks. This woman's handing out sweets. I'll just have the one, I won't be greedy.
No, why not? There's only 3 left. I'm going to bin them in a minute.
She asked if I wanted more. This is the most wholesome protest that you will ever see. That is one big dog. So Sky have just reported that there are literally too many counter-protesters for the far right to really mobilise. This is a lot more wholesome than I was expecting it to turn out. Since there weren't any fascists to beat up, the crowd started moving as we went down Finchley High Street. As far as I saw, the march was uneventful in terms of any fascists turning up. By this point, they'd all pretty much packed on home and gave up. You know, Jess, since we're in what many people would call a hate march, I gotta say, not as hateful as I thought it was gonna be.
No.
Do you feel at risk? You feel in danger by the Muslims who are gonna get you? I don't think they are going to get us.
I'll be fine.
British bullies! British bullies! Unemployment and inflation are not caused by immigration. Bullshit! Come off it! The enemy is profit! British state! Racist state! British state! Racist state! Labour Party! Labour Tories! Same old story! Labour Tories! Same old story!
Well, we weren't looking for fascists, but they all got too scared and just stayed indoors. Instead, we got overwhelming anti-racism demonstrations throughout the capital that have been so effective that they've basically scared the far right away. Which is really great for, like, society, but it does sort of leave me wondering what to do with this video. There were a handful of violent instances that night, but the main story was the overwhelming show of support and solidarity between communities. The handful of anti-immigrant demonstrators police encountered in North London neighbourhoods like Finchley and Harrow were vastly outnumbered by hundreds of counter-protesters carrying signs that said "Refugees welcome" and "Racists out, refugees in." And in the East London neighbourhood of Walthamstow, an even larger gathering of more than 5,000 anti-right protesters chanted "Love not hate." And there were similar perfectly peaceful anti-racist protests throughout the country.
I'm really pleased with how it went, and we put thousands of officers on the street, and I think the show of force from the police and frankly the show of unity from communities together defeated the challenges that we've seen.
So yeah, I think what makes the far right so poisonous is that they're constantly putting themselves as the victim all the time. You can't trust the government because the government hates white people. You can't trust the media because the media hates white people. Basically, you can't trust anyone apart from them. If I were to bring up the fact that people who actually think this way and agree with the rioters make up the vast minority of people within the UK, they just ignore that, because they will maintain that a mythical silent majority, the real Britain, is on their side. Well, no, we're not. Although it is very depressing seeing all of the rioting take place, at the same time, it's also brought a lot of communities together and a lot of positivity has come out of this. It's really shown off the best of England, in my opinion. A lot of you messaged me after my last video, thanks for 5k by the way, basically saying that you feel the whole world is going crazy. It feels increasingly like us on the left are being outnumbered by the right. Which is not something I take seriously, but I definitely agree that it feels a lot like that sometimes. But I gotta say that last night really changed my outlook, to be honest. The next time you feel outnumbered by these kinds of thugs, just picture Walthamstow. Picture 5,000 anti-racist protesters clogging the streets of London. Picture the community spirit that believes in friendship and looking out for each other that we've seen all across England. I'm not sure that the world is going in a great direction at the moment, to be honest. And it can be quite easy to just say, well, we're all fucked, why even bother doing anything about it? It's not going to make a difference, it's not like we can actually change anything. I disagree. The movement is here, we're organised, we're prepared, we're united. We just need a shared vision, I suppose, on what we're heading towards. Anyway, that really got a lot deeper than I was planning this to be. I was just going to take the piss out of the whole thing, to be honest. I just want to dox some Nazis. Why do we have to get all real? But yeah, unjustified racism and Islamophobia is bad in my opinion, and you shouldn't do that. And if you do, the rest of us will beat you up. Bye! I'd like to thank Autumn, Caleb Gita, Collins Mediocre, Kid Cassette hits mother-f and hashtag x27 in bombs on skill trivium for fun, Joseph Carpenter, and Tom_Jolly_and_sweet_Caroline.